Laundrette by Liz Lochhead. This is a poem which deals with the ordinary, mundane, monotonous life of the users of a laundrette. A laundrette is a public place where people can go to wash and dry their clothes, usually people who don't have washing machines or tumble dryers, so usually students, perhaps working classes and things like that. And this poem really just documents almost your regular day in a laundrette. The tone of it is quite a depressing tone. There's no hope in the tone of the poem for anything to change. The tone is that of monotony. It's a monotonous tone. Nothing really changes, nothing really happens in the poem. I'll start off by looking here. Now it's important to look here. Each one of the first three stanzas starts with the word we. Now the word we obviously implies together, and there's certainly the idea that this should be like a community. This should be a place where people can come together to chat, to gossip, to hear what's happening in the community and to be together. And certainly if we were just to look at the first the first word of the first three stanzas, we get this idea of community. However, this community does not actually exist within the laundrette itself. It's almost thrown to lead us off a little bit. We get told that we sit nebulous in steam, really trying to create the atmosphere of it being very hot, very steamy. Think about a cold Scottish day and the tumble dryers and the washing machines on and all the different condensation and steam that comes out of it. Coincidentally, a laundrette in Scots, Liz Lochhead obviously being Scottish, the colloquial word for a laundrette is called a steamy in Scots. So obviously the idea of steam linking to the idea of the steamy, purely because there's so much steam in the building. And it's instantly she uses a full stop at the end of that line, almost to make us pause, just to take us there as the reader, as if we are one of the members of the public using the laundrette. We sit nebulous in steam. It gets told it calms the air, which suggests that perhaps there was some sort of hostile atmosphere beforehand, certainly not a calm atmosphere. We're told that the steam calms the air and makes the windows stream, rippling the hinterland's big houses to a blur of bedsits, not a patch on what they were before. And it's the idea, the hinterland being the area behind the laundrette. It's localised. We feel it's set in a small Scottish town, and behind the you've got the laundrette in the main high street, if you like, and beyond that you can see the big houses. But we're told that the steaming windows put the big houses into a blur of bedsits. These big houses, which at one point indicate at some point in history there was wealth, there was money, it was a rich area or possibly rich area to be in, they've moved to a blur, and now all that we're able to see are bedsits. One bedroom places where you've got your kitchen, maybe you've perhaps even got your kitchen, your toilet, your bedroom, your living room, all spread out over one or two rooms. And it's really showing the decline of the society. The people within the poem, you can see a decline in their happiness, if you like, compared to what it used to be, compared to what we'd imagine a laundrette to be. We imagine women with old women with blue rinses chattering away, but this is not the atmosphere or the idea we get of this particular laundrette. And the big houses to a blur of bedsits, the big houses where there once wealth, there's now poverty, and it says here, not a patch on what they were before. And this is it's not so much a colloquialism but an idiom. It's an expression. If something is not a patch on, then it gives the impression that it's not as good as it used to be before. It's not as good as something else. What this also does is it obviously instantly localises it as well. It makes it much more, it conveys the idea of everyday speech. And that is what Liz Lochhead, the writer, is really trying to convey, is the everyday nature of this laundrette and the everyday speech that is used within it. We continue on, we get told, we stuff the tub, jam money in the slot. It's all very informal, almost colloquial kind of language. We stuff the tub, jam money in the slot. It doesn't sound like a pleasurable thing that they're doing. It certainly seems like a chore. And we're told that they sit back on rickled chairs. That's basically an unsteady structure, really not very good quality chairs. Even not only the people in society are in decline, even the chairs are in decline, according to Lochhead. Sit back and Rickle chairs not reading, and that's very interesting. It goes on to tell us here, you've got caesura here to think about it, almost because obviously if they were reading it would contain full stops, sentences, everything like that. But we're told that they sit on Rickle chairs not reading. The paperbacks in our pockets curl, which suggests that they have intention of reading, they have intention of perhaps of furthering themselves, of bettering themselves, but there's almost no point to it. It's almost like they've given up on life, they've given up on hope for a better future. So these books that normally they would read, which is a very individual activity, they can't even be bothered doing that. It's just, it adds to the gloomy atmosphere that is being created. But she also goes on to explain to us the paperback books in our pockets curl, but she says our eyes, and again linking in with we, our eyes are riveted, our own colours whirl, suggesting that they're so closely focused on the washing machine, they're not even paying attention to each other, they're not paying attention to their books, they're only focusing on their clothes within the machine. And that could possibly be a metaphor for their own lives. As we see later on in the poem, we begin to see this concept of clothes tangling and things like that and stewing in their own juices. We get this idea further conveyed. So we can absolutely say that your own colours, I mean the individualistic idea there with the word choice of own, our own colours whirl, our own individual colours whirl round and round in the machine. She goes on to tell us that we, the users of the laundrette, we pour in smithereen tiny pieces of soap. And then very interesting, not only are the people seemingly depressed and tired of their lives, the mundanity, the constant repetitive nature, it seems to be the machines are in the machines in the laundrette are as well. Look at this word choice here. We're told that the machine sobs through its cycle. Sobs, the connotation of sobs is to cry. The idea, obviously mixing with the water, of course, but the idea really is that the machine sobs through its cycle. The rhythm throbs and changes. Suds drool and slobber in the churn. Our duds, meaning clothes, don't know which way to turn. And again, that's another metaphor. If we're taking each person's clothes, people's clothes represent their individuality, their uniqueness, if you like. Very two people in the world will have exactly the same sets of clothes. So it's saying our clothes don't know which way to turn, a bit like them in their lives. The users of the laundrette aren't really sure which way to turn metaphorically either in their lives. Do they better themselves? Do they stay as they are? Do they accept what their lot is? And the word choice is here. The idea of throbs, slobber, suds drool, machine sobs. It's very much, they're all ideas linked with, it's personification essentially. Drooling and slobbering is when you have saliva coming down your mouth. And it certainly doesn't create a nice impression of the laundrette. It doesn't convey the idea that the spinning of the cycle, the washing of the clothes is a nice or pleasant experience. It doesn't suggest that in any way whatsoever. The suds, the soap, drool and slobber in the churn, again, it's this idea of routine, of nature, of having to do it. It's been forced to do it again and again and again. And as I said, our clothes, metaphorically, our lives don't know which way to turn. We then get on to stanza 4, and a real change in direction. The first three stanzas all start with the word we, forging some sort of idea of community and togetherness at least. We now focus on individual characters within the laundrette. We get told the dark. How can the dark shove one man in? There's certainly, it's obviously a personification of the nighttime, but it's the idea that in the dark, these kind of mysterious, unreliable, untrustworthy, almost dangerous characters come out, so to speak. And it uses a personification there to suggest that the dark shoves one man in. And we're told he's lugging, which suggests straining with difficulty, lugging a bundle like a wandering Jew. That's a very strange word choice, a wandering Jew. For fans of Shakespeare, that should also instantly smack with hints of Shylock, the wandering Jew, and things like that. But it's really the idea that this man is an outsider. This is what this stanza is really beginning to deal with. It's the concept and the idea of being an outsider to society. This person is an outsider, and the fact that he's Jewish is not anti-Semitic, it's not trying to be racist, it's simply stereotypically, traditionally, through history, Jewish people have always been marginalised. They've always been wrongly blamed for things. Think about Shylock and the Merchant of Venice, right through to World War II and so on. Jewish people have always been blamed, and that's really all that Lochhead's trying to do here. She's not trying to create negativity towards a Jewish faith or Jewish people or anything like that. A wandering Jew essentially is an expression for somebody who wanders from there to there and back again. And it's this idea that he's an outsider. He's not part of this society. He's not part of this Laundrette. He's not a regular. So he's like a wandering Jew. And it goes on to talk about linen washed in public here. An idiom to wash your dirty laundry in public, if you like. That's an idiom. And what that means is if you're airing your dirty laundry in public, it means that you're talking about things which should be private, perhaps family problems or a family argument. If you were to start shouting in the middle of town at your mum about something she'd done or said years ago, or a family relative or something that the rest of the public really don't need to know, it's really none of their business. We talk about washing your dirty laundry or your dirty linen in public, and that's the idea it's trying to get here. And a further idiom, who let out the bag? Sorry, we let out the bag who we are. If you let the cat out the bag, you've told the secret or something. And what Lochhead really is doing here is playing with that idea of a bag, full of washing, and furthermore it's the idea that we let out the bag who we are. It means quite simply that we do not, we are quiet. By sometimes through public embarrassment, obviously this outsider has come into the Laundrette. He's caused problems, perhaps caused an argument, and he's obviously embarrassed himself. And what she's really trying to create is the idea that we let out the bag who we are. Essentially, in time, we show who we are. We show our true colours. Again, no pun intended with the idea of Laundrette. We show our true colours. We show who we are. And it's this idea that this outsider has come into the Laundrette and caused some sort of disharmony. Perhaps he started an argument, perhaps just because of the simple fact that he's an outsider, he's not readily accepted, he's different, he's not recognised. That is a problem. And as I said, it says that we let out the bag who we are. We then get presented with another character. We get told the young wife has a fine stack of sheets, each pair a present. Obviously a wedding present. The young wife has been given a wedding present as they've recently been married, and these wedding presents seem to be bed sheets, quite a traditional gift to give to a newly married couple is the idea of giving them bed sheets. Now what's interesting here is it's told that compared to everyone else's laundry, she has a really nice good stack of sheets, each pair a present. Look at the word choice here, positive word choice. She admires their clean-cut air of colour schemes in being chosen. Obviously, alliteration on the C, the clean-cut air of colour schemes. And you can analyse that however fit you see. Think about what could be making that sound within the Laundrette itself, what it might be, maybe a sound that the young wife is making that might resonate that k sound, okay? And then she asks, the speaker asks, are the dyes fast? The christening lather will be the first test. It's really getting technical here. If something's been fast dyed, basically, what it means is how well the clothes keep their colour. If you are doing some washing and you've got colours and you continually wash them, let's say you've got a black jumper and you wash it hundreds of times, eventually that black is going to fade to a grey kind of colour. And so therefore it's not been dyed fast, so to speak. This idea of are the dyes fast is, how good is the quality of these sheets? And metaphorically, how good is the quality of their relationship? How good is the quality of their lives? Compared to everyone else's clothes and lives, this young wife seems very positive, very optimistic, really looking forward to the future. But this question, this little rhetorical question, well, not even rhetorical question, this question of are the dyes fast? The christening lather will be the first test. Christening obviously has an overt link to the idea of being christened when you're a child, brought into the church, but it's also the idea of wetting the head of a baby as its christening. Well, essentially, their christening lather will be the first test. They are using the sheets for the first time, and the first time that is washed in this lather, it's saying, will be the real first test as to whether the colours will run or not, whether the dyes are fast, which furthermore develops an idea, the metaphor that if the dyes are fast, if the dyes do hold their colour well, that therefore suggests that not only is the young wife's life, but also her relationship with her new husband is going to be positive, and it's going to last the test of time. Just like the clothes that will be able to be washed over and over again and keep their colour, similarly the relationship will be able to go through problems but maintain its brightness, maintain its strength, and that's really what it's trying to say. So we have the young wife here in her happy naivety. I would argue that she's very, very, very naive here. She doesn't really know what life is like, what life's ahead of her. She's not really got any idea about this. She's naive to it. She's not experienced. All the other characters in the poem appear to be experienced, seem to have lived life, whereas this young wife has her whole life ahead of her whole married life, and she's excited about it, and we can see that through the presentation of her character. This is juxtaposed. Now, it's a good word to use. Juxtaposed, or juxtaposition. If something is juxtaposed, it's used to show the contrast between the two seemingly contrasting ideas. And we're told here that this woman is deadpan before the rinse and sluice of the family in a bagwash. The idea of being deadpan is she's got no expression, she's not happy, she's not sad, she's deadpan. Her face shows little emotion. And that also can obviously, and as we see from later on in the stanza, that very thoroughly suggests the idea that she is tired of life. She's had so many ups and downs, basically. Nothing surprises or makes her really angry anymore. She's deadpan. She's just got a blank face. And it said that she's deadpan before the rinse and sluice of the family in a bagwash. A sluice being a wash or rinse, basically. So before she puts the clothes into the machine, she's got a deadpan face. And the family here, of the family in a bagwash, the family here are being compared to the clothes. It is metaphorically her family that she is putting in through the wringer. It's her family that she's putting into the washing machine to try and clean something. Obviously there's something dirty about the family. Metaphorically there's some sort of problems, and metaphorically speaking she's almost imagining trying to clean out these problems. However, this woman, this deadpan woman, has a problem. There's an issue in the family, because the speaker takes on this woman's thoughts. She says the woman is deadpan before the rinse and sluice of the family in a bagwash. And then this is what the woman's saying. Let them stew in their juice to a final fankle twisted, wrung out into rope, hard to unravel. Incredible. Let them stew in your juice. It's a cooking metaphor essentially, but if you're letting something stew in its own juice, you're almost let it sort out its own problems, you know. Let all its problems sweat out of it, and then it can deal with it itself. And she's really she's thinking about all the problems that her family has, all the problems that are in her family, and she's saying let them stew in their juice to a final fankle twisted, wrung out into rope, hard to unravel. This idea, fankle quite simply means all tangled up. A Scottish dialect again. The writer's explicitly using the Scottish dialect to place it and locate it directly in a small town in Scotland. But this final fankle sounds very unpleasant. That alliteration on the is really quite a strong sound, and although I wouldn't suggest writing it in your essays, you can almost suggest the repeated sound of what she might be at least thinking and saying. It certainly echoes the frustration that she has. To a final fankle twisted, the family are all twisted over just like the clothes. They're going to be wrung out into rope. They're going to be closely wrung out. All the water, all the excess water, wrung out of them ever so tightly and hard to unravel. Perhaps a metaphor for her family, for her husband, her kids. They're hard to unravel. There are so many problems, there are so many issues that have been. She finds it very hard to disentangle, to unravel all of these problems into single clothes again. We then see enjambment here going directly onto the second stanza. and what we're told is that she sees a kaleidoscope. And as I was saying, she sees a kaleidoscope, obviously a child's toy, so instantly hitting this childlike imagery. You know, she's an experienced woman who's had enough of life, but now she sees a child, almost like a child's like toy. A kaleidoscope is something that you put to your eye, you spin round and you see lots of different colours, and images that you see through it are distorted and look completely different, and the images are constantly changing. And the clothes in the washing machine obviously being likened to this. We're told that whilst her family are hard to unravel and everything, she sees a kaleidoscope from her to narrow her eyes and blow smoke at. So she's looking into the washing machine now and she sees all the different colours spinning around. And we're told for her to narrow her eyes to focus on, narrowing of her eyes to focus on it, just like everyone else seems so focused in their washing, and blow smoke at. The idea that she's got a cigarette and she's then blowing smoke at it shows that she's almost a little bit of disgust. She's thinking, oh, typical you, looking at her husband's overalls, his work clothes. His overalls and pants ballooning because the water, if you think about overalls or pants or trousers in a wash, if they're thin material, they balloon out like a big hot air balloon because of all the water and everything in them. So she's looking in this washing machine, his overalls and pants ballooning, tangling with her smalls, tangling with her underwear. So his work clothes are being tangled with her underwear. Perhaps there's a sexual imagery there, perhaps there's some sexual frustration from there, that perhaps they're not as intimate as they previously were. The only way that they get intimate is his work clothes tangling with her underwear, perhaps suggesting that he's always at work or always out and they don't have that time anymore for the intimate moments they had previously. The word choice of smalls is obviously underwear, and Lochhead has used it explicitly. Analyse it how you will, but that's my analysis. Is really, that's the closest to intercourse, sex and making love that they have, is really his clothes in the wash getting tangled up with her knickers. So we're told, tangling with her smalls and the t-shirt skinned from her wriggling son. Wriggling son obviously suggesting that, as most little boys don't, they don't want their t-shirts or their favourite t-shirt to be taken off them, even if they're really dirty, and they'll wriggle out of it. It's the idea of frustration, it's the idea of the boy not listening to his mother and really causing her a lot more stress and pressure. At the end of the day, she simply doesn't want her son to be walking around in dirty clothing, whereas the boy sees that as mum telling him what to do, and that's a problem. He then gets told she has a weather eye. A weather eye means that you've got good judgment, essentially, for what might shrink or run. So despite all this, as depressed and as annoyed as she is, and in the monotony, the continuous nature of this activity, the washing, she knows how to wash well. She's able to look at it and see what clothes might shrink or what colours might run. This juxtaposes with the young wife who does not know if the colours are dyed fast. She is taking a risk. That is something this experienced woman no longer has to do. Please go back to your stanza about the young wife and annotate onto it. This inexperience, this naivety, she's unsure what to do, but she's prepared to take a risk. Whereas this experienced mother, this experienced wife, does not have to take a risk anymore because nothing is new to her. Everything is what it's like it's always been. It's the same thing. And this woman has experience for what might shrink or run. The final stanza, we see another character being brought into it. We really feel quite sorry for him. If you're dour, what that means in Scots is you're quite, there's not a lot of life to you. If you're dour, then you're not very happy, you're not very excited with life. Life doesn't really excite you anymore, you're not looking forward to it, you're a bit depressed. And we're told this dour man does for himself. Obviously, prior to now, everyone seems to be a family, apart from the wandering Jew, everyone seems to be a family, washing for their family, mostly women again, apart from the wandering Jew. Now we get this dour man does for himself. He washes all by himself. Before him, so he's looking at the clothes now. Before him, half lost, his small possessions swim. Small possessions implying he doesn't have a lot of clothes, he doesn't have a lot of things. And small possessions swim. Look at that sibilance on small possessions swim. I've written over it, which isn't very clever. But small possessions swim. That's sibilance, really giving the idea there that of the sound of the machine going over and churning over. He's half lost though. He's not, obviously he's another character that's not happy with life, not happy with the way that the things are. He's half lost. His small possessions swim, cast off. Cast off almost giving an idea. I would say that this word choice of cast off has connotations of being like shipwrecked almost. This man's life, this man, the way that he thinks, the way that he acts and everything like that, he's by himself, he's half lost like a ship, he's cast off, just like you'd be cast off to sea, or if you're a castaway you've obviously become shipwrecked. He's random, and it's so that they nose and nudge the porthole glass like flotsam. Again, flotsam being the floatage wrecking of a ship. This whole stanza here is full of ship imagery and this idea of losing its way. Perhaps this is really finishing off the metaphor that society, community has lost its way. No longer are we entangled together. We are now individuals who sit and wash our family's washing or our own washing, and that is it. The clothes are a metaphor for life. Things need to be cleaned. We need to purify ourselves. We need to purify our lives, our bodies, our relationships and everything like that. The cleaning of the clothes is a metaphor for this purification process. However, as we can see, with the young wife, not a lot really needs cleaned. They're brand new sheets. There's no dirt. There's no experience on them. And this juxtaposes with the later woman, the older woman with the deadpan face who's experienced and knows exactly what's happening. Nothing will shock her anymore. And finally, this idea of this man almost being shipwrecked, half lost, half by himself. It's really trying to characterise all of the different characters which use this laundrette in Scotland. Now obviously it's fiction, it's not really based on anyone in particular, but we do get the different characters in this poem, quite a few of them. But the overriding theme, if you like, is the unhappiness and mundanity of the whole experience. It's mundane, it's repetitive, it's boring, it's the same again, and again. And nothing changes. Society's declined. We talked about how it's gone from big houses becoming bedsits. Society's changed. The money in the area has changed. This is really the area for the poor people of the society to get together. But instead of coming together to find a better solution, they're individual and focusing on their own lives. This is a fantastic poem, it really is. Please make sure that you go back through it, analysing the denotation and connotation of not only poetic techniques, which there are numerous of in this poem that you should be going through and identifying. You're all able to do that. Think about the denotation and connotation, what the poetic technique is literally meaning, and then what is suggesting by the connotation, and then developing that analysis on a stage by picking out individual word choices and working out the denotation, what literally is meant, and the connotation, what is being suggested by the writer's use of that word, to further develop and appreciate your understanding of the poem. As a final note, I'd like to remind you to go back through looking at examples of caesura, punctuation used in the middle of lines. There's quite a bit there. Enjambment, where the lines run on to the next line. Why has the writer done this? Why has the writer used all enjambment at the end of these, at the end of these two lines and then into there? Why has the writer used just one sentence there, which has a whether I from out white shrink or run? What could these marks of punctuation symbolise? Could they symbolise how do they change the rhythm of it? You need to go through, look at the rhythm, work out, does it actually try to mimic the sound or the rhythm of the washing machine's washing? How do you prove that? And again, caesura, enjambment. Why has the writer chosen to use punctuation in the middle of lines? What effect does it create? What does it draw attention to? The enjambment. Does she use enjambment to try and create this idea of a continuous spin? Does the punctuation at the end of the line therefore symbolise that click and then it starts again in the next line, just like a washing machine does as it's going through its cycle? Really think about the idea of the washing machine, the cycle that it does, the different types of washing that it goes through, the use of caesura, the use of enjambment, the overall themes of the poem and what that might be trying to do and trying to suggest.